It can be insanely hard to get a good rental deal in Denmark, especially in a city like Copenhagen. However, in this video, I'll guide you through the essential information you need to know to succeed in the rental market. From finding a place to everything you need to know about moving in costs and even a bit of the laws you can use to your own advantage. I am gonna be taking the perspective of an expat who is just arriving to Denmark for work. But the video will also help people that are already living here in Denmark and also incoming students as well. If you're new here, my name is Mario and I am passionate about financial independence. In this channel, I help people living in Denmark to save money, invest well, and live a rich life. Finding a place. If you want to find a house or an apartment, your go-to place to start will likely be a website called Bolig Portal. It's an established website, it has been there for more than 10 years, has a nice or nice-ish interface, and you can use it to search and filter for available properties. You can search places for free, but the moment you want to contact a landlord to set up a meeting and so on, you need to sign up to a Bolig Portal subscription, which, by the way, can be quite pricey. But hey, it's gonna likely save you a lot of time because it's the website with the most complete rentals and the most data. I'll get back to Bolig Portal in a minute, but just to let you know, of course, there are other options beyond having to pay for Bolig Portal to search for properties, and in my opinion, none of those options are worth it. The exceptions I could call here are, if you just want a room and not a full apartment or not a full house, you could be lucky with Facebook. There are multiple Facebook groups, for example, Expats in Copenhagen is one, where rooms are often posted. So if you're lucky, you could even find a full apartment or even a house there in Facebook. But again, that would be quite exceptional and it's not the most common thing to see. Also, if you come here as a student, you should definitely check whether you can get some kind of a student accommodation. So you should contact the international office in your school or university, a place you're going to be studying, right? And then check in if there's going to be any type of dorm you could end up being in. Because again, like when you get a dorm through your school, that's likely going to be a lot better deal than renting in the open market. Most of the times at least. And then of course, for the people that move here with a company, they might also be getting some kind of relocating service with agents that will help you find a place. If you don't have that even, but you're moving in here for work, my take is that ask your company for paying this Bolig Portal subscription, which again, it's not a lot of money, but at the end of the day, yes, you can have them pay for it. So at least you'll save some. What I'll do now is then go through Bolig Portal itself to show you the key things you should know about. Again, they're not sponsoring this video, but their website is very useful. So boligportal.dk, you go in here, it's gonna be in Danish. If you scroll to the bottom, you have the option to go to the English website. And if that's the case, you go in English. And for example, if you're moving to Copenhagen, you can just click on Copenhagen or here, or just search the location there, and you'll see that you'll get a big list of properties. This can go pretty long, many pages. You can filter, for example, if you just want to look into apartments, let's do that. You can also filter if you just want to see a room or a house. How much is the maximum price we're talking about? So I can put, for example, 16,000, that's the maximum I'm willing to pay. This is the size that you're looking into, number of rooms, what is the rental period, and let's say, for example, I want a furnished apartment. Now then limits your options as well more. Again, there's a lot of things you could filter on here, you just check. I'd always find useful then to go to the map and you'll see different bubbles, which are different properties, or in the places without bubbles, you see the properties directly. So for example, here, Frederiksberg is a nice place and you have this place for 12,000 krona. That sounds potentially interesting. So you'll see the option down here, you click on it, and you'll see what they're advertising. So it's a 3-room apartment, 78 square meters. I don't know his apartment, but the information you will see here from the apartment is a little bit of a description. You see it's just for a little period, so it's not too long. How much they would be taking in rent, how much would be the deposit, when is it available, how much will be utilities, how much you need to pay in prepaid rent, and a few more important information. So you'll see here, for example, like despite the rent being just 12,000 krona and the utilities right on top of that, then you'll have a moving price. And the moving price, we're gonna touch on that in a minute. But when you click on this, you'll see what is exactly that is included in that. And you see they're asking for the first month in rent, they're also asking for another month in rent, and then another month in deposit. And again, you'll see some properties asking for a lot more than this. We're gonna get that in a minute. But again, this is just a perspective of what you do when you look into Bolig Portal. I just click on this one, but you'll see there are different places over here. This one is 12,000 in New Holland, looks nice, so you just click on this and you see the different options available from one, for how long. You see the moving price is a lot higher this time, So again, just play on this website, and the moment you're ready to move in and bid for a property, or at least reach out to the owner, you just click on contact, and then it will ask you for the subscription, as I said before. Two things to finalize on the wallet portal piece is that despite that it looks that there's a lot of properties, the market is super competitive, especially for all those properties that have a good price, location, and like basically just look like a good deal. So those are very competitive. So don't get fooled by the number of things you see here. And the second thing is that my recommendation is that you immediately contact multiple landlords, not just one, immediately after you find a property you find interesting. If that's the case, just contact immediately. Don't wait too long, because again, the good properties, the good deals, they tend to disappear very fast. One thing that is undervalued, people would advertise a renting price here, and except for those that are amazingly good deals, for most properties, I say, that's my opinion, and what I would do myself is that you can negotiate the prices you see there. Again, not always, not for every single place, and not for every single condition you'll see here negotiable, but in my opinion, what I do myself, I negotiate for work, is that beyond the properties that are super competitive, when we're talking about these higher end properties and places, especially if they're vacant and they don't have furniture and don't have nobody living there, you can get a lower rent than when you see in Bullet Portal, you can get a lower moving in price than you see in Bullet Portal. You just need to push, and if you push to 5-6 different properties, you can get a better deal. So again, focus on this, because in the long run it's gonna save you a lot of money. Now, when you move in, the only thing you must do or sign before you move into a new apartment is a rental agreement. And to do that, the only thing you need will be your residency permit or CPR. That's basically it. You don't need anything else. Moving in to a new place could be pricey, will depend on the specific property. In general, in Denmark, landlords can request, and many of them do, not all of them, but most of them, offer or ask something of this, which is either 3 months rent in advance and 3 months deposit. So this could be paid upfront. So basically, you could move into a new place and have to pay 3 times the rent in advance, and then 3 times the rent as a deposit, which if you're talking about a place that will be over 15,000 kroner, this could add up to a lot of money, so serious money. In a case like this, my recommendations are: first, you negotiate, as I just told you. Again, like in some places, again, the idea of paying 3 months rent in advance is just ridiculous, so just push for 1 month instead if you can. In case you like one specific place and you don't have the cash to pay this thing that you can negotiate, for example, then there are multiple companies that offer loans for this moving in setup. So I wouldn't recommend you get a loan to move into a house, but again, if that's the only option that you have, there are multiple companies that would offer you a loan like this. It could just end up being quite pricey. Now, as I said, landlords could ask you up to 3 months deposit. So this is, again, usually paid the moment you move in, right? So, and again, it can be between 1 to 3 months rent. Sometimes they might not ask for deposits at all. Most common thing is to ask for 3 months. This deposit will usually be returned to you when you move out, so it's not money you just throw into the garbage, but hopefully it's something that you get back when you move out. But it's very common in Denmark for landlords to keep part of this to pay for maintenance and repair cost after you have moved out. If they feel that they need to repaint the walls, or they need to sand the floors, and so on within the house, they will actually take that money off your deposit. One thing to note as well is that when you move in, you should clarify in your rental contract whether you have an all-in rent or you need to pay a fixed rent and then the utilities on top. It's not like a standard for everyone. You will see something like this in Bullet Portal where you can actually see the specifics. But again, your rental agreement should clearly state which utilities you're going to be responsible for paying and which are included already in your rent. Usually, tenants, meaning the people that are renting, will pay for their own electricity and gas consumptions. Most of the times, the landlord will pay for the water. But again, check your contract, check the agreement so you know exactly what you're getting into. The last point on the rental agreement is that it should make it clear how long you are going to be lasting in this agreement. So it can be, for example, that the rental agreement is indefinite and there's a notice period. That's pretty common. But it can also be that there's a certain fixed period for example 6 months, and that's it. Also, the rental agreement will specify whether there will be a yearly increase in the rent, and if so, for how much so. By law, the landlords can only increase the rent by a fixed amount, which is set by the government. But beyond that, just be aware of these things should be in the rental agreement. Be very careful on that. Same if, for example, the house is furnished. The rental agreement should say specifically on which things the house is actually furnished with. Now, rentals, as I have shown you, can be brutal expensive. But there's one loophole, that every house, then an apartment in Denmark, that was built before 1992 is subject to rent control laws. And what this means in practice and to you is that if you're renting a house that was built, or an apartment where the building was built before 1992, landlords can't officially, and I stress officially, rent that apartment for more than a specific set amount, which depends on the commune and the size, and if the apartment is furnished and so on. That then this number is set for something called the rental board. And in most places, this controlled rent, so call it, is well below the market value. So to put a bit of perspective in here, a 70 square meter apartment in Copenhagen or Frederiksberg, which normally would cost well over 10,000 krona, according to this rent, is just 7,000. And a place that is 100 square meters, which again, sometimes could go from 15 to 20,000, if not more, that, according to this rental board, is around 10,000 in rent. And of course, this is with a lot of caveats. Don't take me at face value for just these two examples, but again, the concept here is that there's something called rent control that pushes that rents to be a lot lower. And just to clarify here, landlords can't cheat rent control. So if you as a tenant go, for example, in a rental agreement and pay a rent that is higher than what this amount should be, you could go to this rental board, which is an institution, and have the rental board inspect your property at your request. If they found that you have been paying more than you should have by this law, the landlord will be obliged to do lower the rent for you to the official level, and then also pay you back the difference between what he or she has been charging you and the official level. So for all the time you have been living in there. And there's a limit and there are caveats, but still, this is a big deal. Because of this, many Danes will not rent to people they don't know, trust, or they think could sue them. So you'll need to be super lucky to get one of these rent control deals, or at least find someone who has not been aware of, because there's a lot of companies just pushing expats to get this rent control deal and then get a commission of something like that between. So remember, this can be something you could look into. But again, only applying for properties built before 1992. Renting is crazy expensive and complicated. Buying a house can be, in my opinion, in many cases, a much better deal. Or at least it was while the interest rates were 1 or 2%. And maybe not now at 5 or 6%. But to me, once I crunched the numbers, it just became a no-brainer. Especially, again, if the option otherwise is a very high rent. It might not be super straightforward for you to buy a place if you just move into Denmark as a foreigner, but luckily I have made this video over here where I'll touch on how is the process to buy a house. Thanks for watching.